I'll explain it. I've read it. Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Alison McConnell and Tam McManus here with me. Thank you very much for joining us on the programme. It's weekdays Monday to Friday at 4 o'clock live. If you can't catch it live, you can watch it at your leisure on your YouTube channel. But over and above that, if you download the PLZ Soccer app, you will also be able to just click on the app and watch it live as well. So it's a really good chance for you to enjoy the show. And as you can see, as soon as you do that, the show comes up and you can watch it live on your phone or your tablet. So it's well worth it, Ruffy, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm using it more and more day by day.
Yeah, absolutely. yeah.
Apps on your phone?
No, not this one. Nevertheless, it's good to download the app. You can see it all live, and we'd be delighted if you could do that or hit the subscribe button. So, lots to talk about. More importantly, the game at the weekend. It was a win. It was a narrow win. What did you think of it, Ruffy?
Well, I don't think it hit the heady heights of the Ukraine game for whatever reason. I think at the end of the day, a draw would have been possibly the right result, but that would have done us anyway. You know, that was the objective, but there were still weaknesses there. I think really good sides can pick us out. I think Republic of Ireland had the chance when they broke away, and thankfully Greg Gordon caught it with his foot, or they'd have been 2-1 up. So no, we're going away, you know, and I think we're good enough to go away and get something, but we have to be better than what we were against Republic of Ireland.
Yeah, that's the poorest I've seen Callum McGregor in a game, Ali. I thought he was at times just giving the ball away so many times that I actually thought that's so unlike him.
It's very uncharacteristic of him. I think he's become as important to Scotland as he has been for Celtic across recent months. I actually thought there was a question mark over the build-up to Ireland's goal with McGregor. I thought he might have been fouled. I thought he might have had a case for being fouled just on the edge of the box. But I thought the first half was poor as a collective. I thought Scotland were off it. I thought the tempo and the pace of the game was far removed from the previous win over Ukraine. I thought they steadied a bit in the second half. And I think once they had levelled it, I think you sensed the momentum and the energy coming from Hampden and from the crowd. I would agree with Ruffy. I think a draw would probably have been a fairer reflection of the course of the 90 minutes. But I think how many times have you watched Scotland come away with a point when maybe they've deserved 3, or come away sometimes with nothing to show when they've merited something. So I think you take it when you get it and you move on. And I think if they go and get the point that they need this week in Krakow against Ukraine, I think it would be an incredible week for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got to be positive, even if you don't play well and you win, because more often than not we've sometimes put in qualification games good performances and just came up short. Overall, the one thing I didn't like about it, Tam, if I was talking about that first half as well, I think with Shea Adams up, you got that sense that they would play back, middle, front, and play into feet, and there was less of a long ball attitude to it. When Dykes was there, I just felt as if there was more of a long ball attitude to it.
I think it's an easy target when you play Dykes up there. You just think we'll just hit him early, and I think that's what Scotland tried to do. First half we played with our hearts and our heads. You know, it was headless chickens running about the park. McGinn, McGregor, you think just put your foot in the ball and play your normal game.
Yeah.
But because it was such an important game, you know, I think there was a lot of tension in it and a lot of tension in the performance. I thought Ireland, the 2 strikers for Ireland, caused us real problems. I thought we tried to play that same high line again, and they too were quick and strong, and we were lucky a couple of times. The final pass through never got Ireland in. Second half, I think Steve had a word with them. Listen, settle down, calm down. And I thought we came out and get the goal straight away, which was great, gave us momentum. And then it went either way. Ireland had chances, you know, boy gets clean through, you know, he should score, and then we get a penalty, you know, and it was nothing in the game at all, and we get the win, which was all important. The result was all important, but performance.
I was surprised with the penalty. Were you?
I was. It didn't look a penalty in first thought, but when you see it back, you know, his own man actually pushed him into the ball. I know Stephen Kenny was unhappy with it. He thought it was a Scottish player that pushed him, but it was definitely an Irish player that pushed him into the ball. It's a penalty kick. You know, VAR was in play as well. So, and fair play to Ryan Christie, because composure, you know, and I think he's a good player, but composure is no his strong point, and rolled into the net, great finish, and great result for us, but Ireland will be kicking themselves because I thought they played well.
Yeah, it ended up turning into, for me, Ruffy, a typical British style game, which
Suited Ireland.
I just hate that type of game, and I think, as Tam pointed out there, it did suit Ireland. And I don't rate this current Irish side. I just thought it was a mediocre side that suddenly, I felt confident we could take 2 off them without any reply. But once that first half started to unfold, I thought they're going back to that same game plan that Ireland picked us off at home. And
yeah, it seems to knock us off our stride when somebody else scores first. It takes us ages to sort of dig ourselves back into the game. Unfortunately, we did, and as Tam said, so early in the second half. But it's not the first time you get, even at club level, when you get 2 British teams together, it's not the same as playing a foreign team. There's a certain style. They all know each other personally. They all know their strengths and weaknesses. And it's different for playing a foreign team, and I think it'd be interesting to see what Ukraine are going to do, because they really fancy themselves now. They really do. I mean, as Tam said, they left out nearly their whole team.
11 changes.
Nobody injured. Nobody, apart from the guy who missed the game last week. And now we're counting injuries. We're counting he's out, he might be out, so we're not going into the game, 100% fit, and they are.
Yeah, although Ali, I mean, I'm reading out some of the points here. Hugh Scott says, Peter, I thought we struggled on Saturday night. At the end of the day, we've played better and get nothing, so I'm quite happy to take the points and move on. Billy says, negativity about winning. Now, I can understand where Billy's coming from. Stuart McKinnon, I think, makes a great point, which is the high line made him nervous. Certainly made me, but let's be positive about it. Ruffy's saying, we're into the last game needing a draw. You're a bit in the hand off anybody at the start of the campaign.
No, absolutely, and I think that's how. I think after a game like Saturday night, you take the win and you move on. I don't think you need to look over it too closely. I think everybody knows it could have gone either way. It could easily. I think Ireland. Put it this way: in the 93rd minute, you're still anxious. You're still thinking it could yet tip in the balance. So I think that would have been a reflection of just how evenly the game played out. So I think you take the point and you move on, and I think everyone would have been delighted to be within touching distance of securing a playoff spot for the 2024 European Championships, knowing that you need a point for your final game. I think Scotland would have been delighted with that if you'd gone back a few months and offered it.
Yeah, and Ruffy's right, Tam. I'm looking at it. Tierney and Hickey went off injured, but Hickey looks as if he'll be okay. McTominay now suspended, which is a blow.
Yeah, it's a big blow. He's been good in the 2 games, McTominay. Thought he got a grip of the game in the second half as well.
Still a yellow card as well.
It was. It was a bit of was that the Barney? Just the handbags. And
McKenna now out as well.
McKenna's out as well. So listen, it could be a huge opportunity for Ryan Porteous. I mean, you're looking around and you're thinking you've probably got to play him. I don't think there's...
Oh no!
Can I just say something to you? I mean, honestly, I was chatting to one of his family members. His dad's extremely proud of him, and looking and thinking to himself, this is a huge opportunity for him. Sometimes there is a sliding doors moment, Tam, when, because of the way the injuries have gone, suddenly you've got Taylor, who'll undoubtedly, I mean, here's the predicted 11. Have a look and see, because I was looking at the other players that are there. Now, on the basis that Porteous was in before Declan Gallagher was called in, that surely means that he's favouring him slightly ahead in the pecking order. So Gordon, Hickey, Hendry, Porteous and Taylor. I just threw in McLean there because he's played more football than Billy Gilmore, McGregor. Then you've got Armstrong, McGinn, Christie and Adams. I mean, he may well go for a Dykes to hold it up early. I hope he doesn't do that, but what do you think?
I think he'll play Gallagher before Porteous, simply because I do.
Do you?
Yeah, but simply because he's been there and done it. I think did he play in Serbia, Declan Gallagher? I think he did, away from home. And I just think he'll get the nod just purely on experience. I don't think Ryan Porteous will let anyone down if he plays. I think Ryan Porteous is an excellent defender. And I've seen him a lot in the last couple of years, obviously. Seen him every game. A lot of opposition fans don't think he's that great, but I think he's a good player. I don't think he'd let anyone down, but I just think Gallagher might get the nod because he's got a wee bit more experience in a big game.
Yeah,
I think you play Gilmore before McLean.
I think Gilmore before McLean too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, that's the great joy of just trying to come up with an 11. I'm going to get your thoughts on Ali, but I want to pick on him because of his.
Ryan Jack said as well.
Well, Ryan Jack is also is he playing well enough at the moment? I'm not so sure. I speak to Rangers fans; they're not too enamoured with his performances. But Ruffy, on the basis, the only reason I threw Porteous in there, obviously, is a talking point because he was selected. Gallagher is not in the squad, and then it's a real boot in the back. I was going to say something else. It's a real boot anywhere if you don't play. Porteous, and you've got him in the squad ahead of Gallagher, who's been called up late. But Tam might be right on the basis. Me personally, I think Porteous has stalled at Hibs. I like him as a player and I like the way he plays the ball out, Ruffy. I think he's stalled at Hibs. There's been nobody there to try and take him on. It's been one manager after another, and I think he's stalled. I think when he moves in the summer away from Hibs, he'll become there's a chance to become a better player the way we all think about it. But you're not. You're not.
No,
keen,
I think he's a very good player. I just find Tal will know more than me because he's here. There are wee bits in his makeup he lets himself down, whether it's a slack pass or a pass back or a rash challenge or something like that. And you're throwing him into a defence that he's never played with before, so that's a big ask as well. But for me, it's all about they've been away together now for 10 days. And if he's been impressing, they'll be having wee bounce games, and they'll see him. He's probably been Martin Dykes or he's been Martin Che Adams in some of these bounce games, and he'll be able to tell whether he's up for it, to step up a grade, because it is a stepping up for Hibs to the international football, particularly away from home, where you would like to think we'll not be defending that much, but at some stage we will be under the cosh, so he'll have to step up to a different level.
The plus point is we might get a penalty if Porteous is playing.
Well, the funny thing is, I know you're laughing, right, but there's no point in reading out.
If he goes down the box in the last minute, would people say, he's a cheat?
No,
Scotland fans would be rubbing their hands.
Well, to be fair, by the way, even on the basis, if he won a last-minute penalty and then decided to take it himself and put it into the top of the net, brilliant, and scored the goal and ran away with his tongue out, smiling and laughing because he'd won it, I don't think the Rangers fans on here would say, well done, Ryan Porteous, because they just don't like him. I mean, there's no point in reading half of them out, but he is one of those divisive characters. But he's a young guy who I think will benefit from moving away from Hibs. And I apologise to the Hibs fans for this, but he's out of contract and I think he'll go. Yeah,
I would agree with you. I think he would go too, and I think it would benefit him. I think there's a danger, I think, particularly in Scotland, where it's a small league and there's a particular kind of media scrutiny in certain players. I think once you have a reputation for something, it can be very difficult to move away from it, and I think there's been a bit of immaturity in his plays. He's come through, as he's made his way into the first team. I think there's been incidents that he would probably regret once he grows up a wee bit and reflects on his career.
Never happened before at Hibs, young players coming through and off the field escapades.
No, absolutely not. I read your tweet today. Yeah, no, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
And I think he will grow up. I think he has the basic principles there. I think there's a decent defender in him. I think he's a likeable boy. I think any time we've spoken to him, I think he's come across very well, an affable character. I think you would like to think he's quite coachable in terms of what he's trying to do, but I would agree that there's been elements of immaturity about his play. You would hope going into the international scene that you've kind of got to be fairly formal, you've got to get your head down and you've got to focus on the job at hand. But I think he will start before Gallagher. I think the fact he was called up before Gallagher would suggest that he's maybe just slightly ahead of him in the pecking order.
There's a split in the camp, Ali. You and I are in this camp, and Ruffy and Tam are edging towards
Ruffy made
Gallagher.
a good point, but I did say about training.
Yeah.
About the training, you'd be able to maybe get the nod over training.
Yeah.
Well done for that good point, Ruffy.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Write it down, Tam. They're rare.
10 years.
10 years. We have them. We have them on a 1 megabyte server. But you can tell us who you think should get the nod in the back four. Do you agree with that predicted 11? I mean, some people think Billy Gilmore will get a nod on it. There might be someone else that we've omitted there. Is it midfielder Ryan Jack. A few people have mentioned about Ryan Jack and his form on this feed here. You can give us your thoughts on it. We're more than happy to take all comers on this one, because it is, of course, Scotland, and we're hoping that they can get the result against Ukraine. I think it would lift the whole nation, and certainly give us, that feeling of we'll get 2 hits to try and qualify for the next European Championships, which would be fantastic, because believe me, it'll become painful around about November when we're not there at the World Cup. That's when the pain of the previous results really will hit home. So from 2-1 against the Republic of Ireland, which, in the end we'll take. We weren't great. Can we get better? Can we produce what Callum McGregor mentioned was an away performance, a sensible, assured, patient performance for Scotland away in Ukraine? He certainly played in a number of high-profile European games where he knows exactly what it takes to try and get those results, and this is a huge one for Scotland. Our reporter Adam Binney was out there at the Oriam to catch up with the Scotland squad ahead of the journey to Krakow.
I'm outside the Oriam, Scotland's National Performance Centre, ahead of the crucial UEFA Nations League tie against Ukraine in Poland tomorrow. Scotland, they haven't been without their issues this week. 2 injuries to Kieran Tierney and Scott McKenna, respectively, as well as a suspension for Scott McTominay for tomorrow's match. We were speaking to Steve Clarke earlier this morning, who says there might be a couple of extra issues to worry about when selecting his team tomorrow.
1 or 2 missing from training this morning. We've got some kind of virus in the camp, just sickness. So Lyndon Dykes, Shea Adams didn't train this morning, didn't feel very well, but they'll be on the plane. So we've got that to worry about as well. So we're not short of issues, and we're also not short of determination to go there and finish the job.
Scotland manager Steve Clarke obviously worried about the health of his 2 strikers, Lyndon Dykes and Shea Adams, but Scotland fans, don't worry. We spoke to Shea Adams as well this morning, who confirms that he's feeling fit and ready to play.
No, I'm tough, so I can play. I think, I think if it was any worse, then I think I couldn't. But I'm fit. I'm ready to go for tomorrow.
Yeah, there seems to be a bit of confusion surrounding the health and fitness of some of the players in this Scotland camp, but there's no confusion when it comes to knowing exactly what Scotland require from tomorrow night's match. Just 1 point will do it. 1 point will guarantee top spot in the league and promote themselves to UEFA Nations League A, as well as guaranteeing a semi-final playoff spot for UEFA Euro 2024. We will be bringing you live updates from the match across our social media channels tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But for now, back to you in the studio, Peter.
Yeah, thanks to Adam there earlier on at the Oriam. Of course, it's a story out of nothing really, Ali. I don't know why they get embroiled in it. No, the 2 of them are sick. Oops!
He coughed well into his boiled egg.
I was going to say, why turn around and say that they didn't train and then they're suddenly pictured there?
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's just a bit of gamesmanship before they head on over to Krakow, or if there was maybe a bit of unease in Sunday, that they maybe felt a bit ill after the game. But clearly, I think pictures showed that they look in fine health, which is good news. I think given when you look at how many other players are out, I think you need everyone fit and available, as many players as you can that are able to play.
The biggest problem I have, Ruffy, and it's continually something that you and I have discussed since we started this show 10 years ago, Ruffy, is we don't have any centre backs. We were actually talking about it in the office there, and we're thinking that the last half decent central defensive pairing was it McManus and Caldwell. Has there been anything that suggests, and even then we haven't qualified, apart from the European Championships Cup, the last European Championships, we hadn't qualified since 1998. Mm-hmm. So, and that partnership, I think, was it Colin Hendry and Colin Calderwood, so it's Stephen Hendry, Colin Hendry. Might need snookers. Anyway, we haven't.
Yeah, I mean, not settled. Usually when you
we don't even have talls. In your day,
you want a partnership. You want a partnership. That's what you want. You want 2 centre halves who can read each other inside out. They can know if one's going to make a mistake, you're going to cover for them. And we've not had that. It's been one in, one out, one in, one out. And it's the same with the full backs as well. We haven't had a back four, a settled back four for a long time. Thank God we've got a right good goalkeeper who makes the saves that wins his games.
Yeah.
You know, because if it hadn't been for him again, you know, and that's 2 or 3 times now he's made that big save.
He's the type of goalkeeper though, Ruffy. I thought he would still have had the baby in one hand, making sure he was feeding it while he saved the ball down the right hand side.
Yeah, he probably could have.
What a night it was for Craig Gordon, wasn't it?
Oh, you can imagine what must have been going through his head with his wife, you know, the baby and everything, you know, but he's professional enough to do it, and most professionals are. I mean, you do things when you're a professional football player normal people wouldn't do.
Yeah, absolutely. And because, Ali, you're freelance, if you were having a baby, you'd probably have been still there with your computer going, I can do 1,000 words on this. Well, cut the cord, for God's sake, let's get on with this.
I worked really up to all night, I think.
Did you?
I worked right up until before all.
Fantastic. I knew that about you, Ali. That's why you're here. Grafter. That's why she was signed, Ruffy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? She's not a water carrier, she's a grafter. None of your Didier Deschamps. That's why she was signed all those years ago.
People can go to a game and have 6 copies the next day.
all different. I know. By the way, just out of curiosity, how long are you with us now? How long have you been here? Because he said he's been with us 3.5 years, which absolutely gobsmacked Ruffy and I, because we can't believe we've kept him that long.
The longest I've ever been at one place.
I think you've been here 4 years, yeah.
I think 4.
Yeah.
Because I'll be freelance for 4 years come April, and I'd already done bits and pieces for you.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I started properly that August.
That's it. There you are. What a team. And of course, just checking, no badge kissing from Ali either, by the way, Ruffy.
No.
You know, we're having none of that either, are we?
She is everywhere where she is. Where else could you go?
It's a very good point. Yeah, there are a few. Anyway, you know, great to have you on board with us, Ali, as ever. 4 years, 3.5 years, and of course, Ruffy and I still battering away here at 10 years. Thanks to so many people. Some of the comments on here are people that there's a little mix of people, Tam, who just throw things out just for a noise up, just to see if they can start an argument. I sometimes laugh at it, and then of course you've got what I call the haters who will always hate, and then you get the sensible things in. But then there's somebody who you know is just never going to be happy about Scotland in this one. What's your gut feeling on it?
Ukraine?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good gut feeling at the minute.
Yeah.
No, I think they're going to be waiting for us. I think they're going to be waiting for us. They were saying we were waiting for them. And the injuries we've got, key players, you know, there's Ukraine rested 11 players are going to bring their whole team back in. I hope I'm wrong, but I think we're going to get beat.
You're going to go for what?
I think we're going to get beat.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
I hope I'm wrong.
What give me a score like 2-1
to Ukraine.
2-1 to Ukraine. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. I mean, look at the group right now. You know, obviously those changes, and as you can see, Ukraine were actually on top with 11 changes, but thumped Armenia 5-0. But for us to be there at the top, Ruffy, it's just a draw that we need. So what's your gut feeling on the basis, Ruffy, that we don't want to be going over there playing with the attitude for a draw?
I'm only going with the Republic of Ireland performance. I was as high as a kite after the Ukraine game. Again, we fell short of where we were. Be a bit anxious. I don't think we'll get beat. I think we're good enough to go over there and get something. That means a draw. But I think it's going to be it's them leaving all the players out, and can they be as bad as what they were last week?
They're going to be a lot fresher than us.
Can they be as bad as that 3-0 game? I know they're at home. Well, not really at home.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have the usual support behind them. So that could be an advantage to us as well. I just think we've got players in there that are good enough to see it out. They're no terrific goal scorers, Ukraine. You know, I think if we defend properly, we'll get something out of the game.
The only thing is, Peter, it's a freshness aspect to me. Three high intensity games in 6 days, 7 days.
Yeah.
You know, I think the fact that Ukraine could afford to leave their full team out means they're going to have a full squad of players. They might pick some of the guys that played. You know, so I just think that freshness and that little bit fresher, I think that's going to be the turning point.
It's a strange one because I cannot pick. I think the front line, I think his selection is key on a number of areas. Obviously, we don't have the centre halves. It's a problem. Mm-hmm. Jack Henry, I think, acquitted himself well. Certainly, his pass completion rate was phenomenal. If you looked at the stats,
His goal was quite clever as well. Actually, if you watch the build up to his goal, he stops, he checks his run twice. He does it, checks his run, was quite intelligent. His movement was quite clever. I think it showed a maturity about that, about performance too, and just positional sense, which augurs well. I would agree with you. I think there are key positions, and how Scotland start the game, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
I think you can't be chasing it.
Just on that point, Ruffy, what's your prediction for the score then? If you think we're getting the draw in your mind?
I think we'll get a draw. I think we will.
1-1.
Another wee worry is that 3 of our 5 goals are off of set pieces. You know, we're not breaking teams down. You know, we're 2 headers for the corners and a penalty kick. A fortunate penalty kick. So the other ones weren't really build-up, so were like balls breaking and McGinn took his goal well. So,
but to be fair, if you look at the home game against Ukraine, I mean, Stuart Armstrong could have scored goal of the tournament with the back flick.
If I'm looking at that Ukraine, that 3-0, I'm looking, why should we not be good enough to draw them? They weren't that hot. Not as hot as they were in the 3-1 game.
Yeah.
No, I never saw that quality last week. I just saw in the World Cup qualifier.
If Zinchenko still out?
Yes, but I just thought if we are talking about tactics, Ruffy, and sometimes the manager's just got to look at it and say, well, maybe I got it wrong. I thought the tactics of Dykes just played right into their hands. I mean, I was sitting in the Hampden press box that day and I thought, they're playing the ball on the deck, they're technically better, they look as if they're going to beat us, and the only way we're getting back in was a set piece. But since then, you know, sometimes managers accept that injuries, suspensions, throw up a different formation, a different way to play. And I saw in that game against Ukraine numerous chances that, as Ruffy points out, we've got to take them, Ali.
Yeah, I think Adams gives you a different option. I think he gives you a different option up front, but he also gives you a different option of just how you play, how you set up, the way that the ball moves from middle to front. I think it'll be a really difficult night for Scotland and Krakow. I don't think it will be an easy or straightforward encounter. I would expect Ukraine to be very different from the Ukraine that you saw at Hampden. I think I think Scotland should be good enough to go and come away with the point. Whether or not they do, it's an entirely different matter. But certainly, I think when you look at the confidence within the squad, the players who are available, you have players who have been exposed to top level leagues, to Champions League football, to International League football. You need a mature performance from Scotland, and you need to be able to manage the game and see it out. You know that there'll be elements within the game where you'll be up against it. I think it's about keeping your composure, not panicking, and trying to stick to the game plan.
Yeah, okay, give me your prediction.
1-1.
I'm going to go 1-1 as well. And then it's just down to Tam, who is clearly...
I hope 1-1, but I think 2-1 Ukraine. I think they might beat us.
Yeah.
They won each, then we'll get Israel in the next round.
Don't give me 2-1.
No, exactly. Honestly, we play Israel. Play Israel all the time. I think Hugh Scott makes a great point here, and I think it's something that's well worthy of us reading out. I was just thinking this must be Tam's longest stay anywhere, which is a very good point from Hugh. I think it's got to be, what was the longest? Well, maybe him.
There's always somebody around the corner willing to pay more.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, the testimonial game is not too far away. That's what the wee badge said before he kissed the badge, Ruffy.
In the early days, before, just when you started there, we were going to do a bench down there, so you just came off it.
Yeah,
you'd be used to it.
Yeah, just make him feel at home. Absolutely, absolutely. But no, it's a good point Hugh makes, and also Hugh says, Peter, let's see how long Alison lasts if she finishes bottom of the predictor, because I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you heard Ruffy's comment last week, but it was scandalous. Ruffy just says, all I want is Ali to hit the bottom of the predictor. He just wants you on the bottom. So
this last year,
yes.
Totally agree with
By the way, there is a vindictive man who, he doesn't care about it, Ali. He just wants you to hit the bottom of it. And thanks to Tommy, who says it's pronounced Krakow, by the way. I know Tommy, but every now and then there's a slip here and there. But it is pronounced Krakow, and let's hope. Matt, who says Ukraine 3, Scotland 0. Come on, Matt. That's slightly negative. It is an opinion. Full marks to you for giving us one, but Alan McLean says, I agree with Tam. I hope he's wrong, though. So
I've been wrong before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's a strange one.
The only time I tipped Rangers last year was in the final and they get beat. I've done every other team against them.
Yeah.
So that's quite a good thing, me betting.
Okay.
Fancying Ukraine.
Listen, we always do a quiz. We always throw a wee question out. We're halfway through the programme. I thought I might throw it out now, by the way, because it's fairly pertinent to the news. Tam mentioned it earlier. How many managers have Watford had since 2012? Because they are firing through them. And Rafi, I'm going to get, because it's a number this time, I'm going to let you have a guess, and everybody else.
I'm going to have a guess at 9.
9 in 10 years, Rafi. Wow. Gee.
I'm
Ali?
going to say 8.
8 in 10 years? 8? Okay. Oh, yeah.
I'll go for 16.
16?
Yes.
Right, okay.
It's quite well.
Oh, you're going to... Oh, go and get it. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Ali was just about to cane you there. And then she just reeled us. I could hear the beep of the reverse gear. You know?
16.
So 9, 8 and 16. Okay. If you have a guess, fire it out there without cheating. Give us your thoughts on how many managers have Watford had since 2012, the start of 2012, and we'll read out the answer. Lots of people are putting their figure forward, but we've finally got 3 numbers on that one. We'll announce it at the end. So now, here's the permutations against Ukraine. There it is there. It's fairly straightforward. We've given our prediction. Nations League promotion. Avoid defeat against Ukraine. We seal promotion into Nations League A. Euro 2024 playoffs secured. A draw would see Scotland win the group and cement a playoff spot, which is what we want. Euro 2024 qualifying pot. Victory over Ukraine would make a spot in pot 2 a reality, ensuring Scotland avoid teams like England and France. That's good, Ruffy, when the actual qualification proper goes forward rather than this Nations League avenue.
Yeah, I think we all look at it. You always, if you're down at 3rd or 4th, you're always liable to get 2 of the big ones, which makes it even more difficult. But no, that is a great result if we can get into that second pot.
Yeah. 2 hits, Ali. Although it wouldn't be easy in the playoff spot if we do manage to get a point at least.
I think you probably have to just hold yourself a wee bit. I think the first thing to do is just concentrate on getting the point and then see where it leads. I think if you to go and get a win in Krakow and beat Ukraine and think about that pot 2 position, I think it's fantastic because it eliminates so many strong teams that you can find yourself up against. But I don't think you can get too ahead of yourself just now. Yeah,
now I'll tell you a nation that's not getting ahead of themselves. It's England, because suddenly I'm heading down a road with England that I fear, Tam. They're about to call for his head shortly, but I think he'll be allowed to manage at the World Cup. I have a lot of time. I like Gareth Southgate. I think he's a decent man, and right now they're actually out of Nations League A off the back of that defeat to Italy.
Yeah, and Gareth Southgate, never forget his penalty kick against Germany. When you get the Pizza Hut advert, the Germans might just do the damage again tonight. Yeah. I think if Germany beat them at Wembley, I think he's out the door.
No.
Yes.
I don't know if they would change it right before the World Cup.
No, I can't see it. You think he's gone?
I think if the Germans beat them, I think he might. They've not scored a goal in open play in about 5 games.
Yeah.
With that talent they've got in their team, it is incredible.
Remember, by the way, Tam, the one thing I would say to you is, although there is a humongous amount of money, I think there are certain journalists, really good operators in England, who absolutely understand that there are good players in England, but there aren't world-class players. There's a lot of top drawer players playing football in England, but they're playing for other countries. If you get sucked in by the PR from some of the media and some pundits who elevate players way beyond the reality of what they are, Ruffy, then you start to believe that England should be winning every trophy and it's in every cabinet, and that is not the reality for them.
No, the only thing I think that goes against them is they haven't progressed. I think 2 years ago they had a lot of young players on that side, and everybody went, seeing a couple of big tournaments later on down the line, they're going to be a force. They're not a force. They went back the way instead of forward. They're not the team that everybody's fearing. But I agree. I think it's 6 weeks before a World Cup final. There has to be some kind of continuity to get into the World Cup final, and you don't start sacking your manager.
Yeah.
if Germany beat them 3 or 4-0, then you know, like it is with reaction.
Oh, it's 3. Hold on a minute. Is 3-0 sackable?
No, only for Gordon Strachan.
It's a long time, Ali, but I always remember. Well, listen, I like Stephen McNamara's attitude to it. Thank you, Stephen, for being so blunt on the opinion on it, which is basically Stephen says Harry Kane is genuine world class, Peter.
Agree.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. So, how many world class players do they have?
Not many.
One?
That we get into a world 11? No, one, yeah. One for me, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There's none of them, as I say, moved on.
So it's Stephen's right. It's Harry Kane.
It's Harry Kane for me. I mean, we're talking about Declan Rice and all them and Grealish, and what the point I'm making is they haven't moved on from where they were 2 years ago at international level, club level, yeah.
Yeah. Well, club level is because you're getting minimum 150 million, and you're buying foreign players.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest player that's been signed in the summer is Haaland, and he's playing behind De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. Do you know what I mean? So there is a tremendous overhype at times, Alison, which I think we are probably a little bit more, realistic. I'm not saying we're all better journalists or pundits than people down south, but because there's more of them that tend to push this, agenda of, these are great players, they're world class players, it's a great team, we should be winning this, we should be winning that, when the reality is they don't.
Yeah, I think what happens is you look at the league and it's an incredibly strong league, which lends itself sometimes to a superficiality of what expectation and what you predict you're going to get back from the national team. But I think what the issue has always been for England, and particularly over recent decades, when you look at the players that they've had, the calibre that they've played at, the stage they've been on club level, is that you can't seem to sink it in a national sense. You can't seem to draw the same level out and get the same cohesion that you get at club level from international players when they then go into the England setup. It just doesn't seem to gel in the same way.
Totally agree. I think that England they've got one world class player and they've got several top class players.
Yeah.
Foden, Trippier, they're class players, but I think they've not scored a goal from open play in 4 or 5 games. England are bottom of the league. And usually England in the Nation League's obviously different with the promotions and you're playing against better teams, but England are usually playing Malta and Faroe Islands and all that because they're number 1 seed. They win 10 out of 10 every season, and now they're in against better teams are getting found out. And I think Hungary battered them 3 or 4-0.
That was a big surprise.
I think if Germany go and beat them 2 or 3-0 tonight, I think they'll get the chop.
I think that media you're talking about have that.
Don't name them. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying they have. Once
I don't want to get into that whole let's fight with other broadcasters rubbish.
Once the roller coaster starts, once the roller coaster starts, and they'll jump on the bandwagon. They are the people who get you sacked.
Yeah. Well, this is it, because quite simply you get to a situation where you look at the team and you say to yourself, why are they not performing? I mean, it's a long time since they've scored a goal, and 5 games without a win, 2 defeats, 3 draws, 1 goal in those 5 matches. Ali, speaks for itself. Yeah,
it's a pitiful return, and I think the converse is true. I think when you look at the game against Germany, you think if it doesn't improve, then it certainly asks questions. It's not an ideal way to go into a tournament. However, if they do get a result, if they manage to rally it and find a win, I think you would see it as a fairly big result. I think it would be quite seismic in terms of where they are and where they're going. But I think I just wonder if there's been the psychology of the Nations League has played a part in it, and thinking that you don't need to really do that well in it from England's perspective. I think it's different from Scotland. You look at it as an opportunity to go in. It's how Scotland qualified for the last European Championships. I just wonder if there's been a sense of underestimating it, of underestimating what they actually had to do, and that being reflected in performances, or if it goes a bit deeper and there's unrest within the camp.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we all want Scotland to do well and get a point. England maybe have that attitude of, there's a World Cup to look forward to first and foremost, and then obviously the European Championships and the qualification route. Pope, Walker, Dyer, Maguire, Bellingham, Rice, Saka, James, Foden, Sterling and Kane. And their substitutes are Cody, Grealish, and remember Grealish Grealish £100 million, Henderson, Ward-Prowse, Alexander-Arnold, Tammy Abrahams and Jason Mount.
Yep.
Mason Mount,
I think
sorry.
How many of them we get into your team?
By the way, can I just say, and I know I'm going to be controversial here, everybody apart from Maguire, it's as simple as that for me. Yeah, they would all get in.
Aye. I'm looking at our team there. Kane, Sterling, Foden would all play for us. Saka. Aye.
Yeah. Anyway.
Bellingham's a top player. Harry Maguire, big slab head. We've got our own slab head, bit McKenna.
Yeah.
Maybe two of them together. Maybe we get by they two.
Yeah. Well, it's all about opinions on it, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure I think he's got credit in the bank. I agree with you, Ali. I get a feeling that it's just you and I against these two today.
Wales aren't doing particularly well either, and they're going to the World Cup.
No, I know that, but listen, it's all about, I think it's all about what tournaments you've qualified for. Have you actually fulfilled the remit of why you're there? And the answer to that is emphatically yes. And by the way, the manager for England is not hiding from the criticism.
No matter what job you have in football, that would be the case. Of course, with the national team, that noise is going to be even louder and more widespread, and I totally understand that. So, not hiding from that. It's a situation that we aren't enjoying, not winning football matches.
Yeah. Well, we've got to try and turn it around
tomorrow. Well, the sun. We've had the turn up Graham Taylor.
It just shows you though, Tam, how things have maybe moved on a wee bit.
Steve McLaren.
Is there
the cauliflower maybe, something like that?
I think they've moved on a wee bit. If there's a level of being in the gutter, I don't think the tabloids are quite still in that situation where they would put something on someone's head. I'm looking at Ali and I'm thinking maybe I should get it in reverse and start going back the way again. Okay, we'll wait and see, but I think he's a thoroughly decent man, and I do not think that he would deserve anything superimposed on his head because he's going to a World Cup, and I think, like Ali, he's got a bit in the bank. Okay, Wales relegated from the Nations League after a 1-0 defeat to Poland, but they're going to the World Cup in 7 weeks, so they can look forward to it, Ruffy.
Well, that's the difference. They're not going to sack their manager. Their manager's a legend. He's taken them to the World Cup.
Yeah.
You know, so he's got a lot of bonus points that he can hang on to, but just being there. I hate talking about people being there and we're not there.
Yeah, no, do your in. I'll tell you one thing though, Northern Ireland are not going there, but I watched the game. I mean, it was just one of those mental games where Northern Ireland looked as if they were out of it, and then suddenly
he was getting the chop, their manager.
Well, not.
At 1-0 they were getting the chop.
He's not flavour of the month, Ian Barraclough, but I'll tell you one thing to his credit. He made the changes when he needed to, and suddenly the crowd just seemed to say, come on, give us something, it's Kosovo.
Yeah, there's a couple of journalists I follow over there that I've done work with at various times in my career, and as the game was unfolding, their tweets were fairly interesting when they were trailing 1-0 and then saw that they pulled it back and come back from the brink, I think.
Yeah, I think, and you'll appreciate this, Tam, I now, not that I think Twitter's the be-all and end-all, I know you still like throwing grenades on it, but since the game's over 2-0, there's no way back for the Hibbies, the wake is on. I've immediately come off Twitter. I've changed my mindset.
At least you've not deleted it.
Well, I wouldn't delete it. Listen, that's the game. You run with the punches. But I have to say, I would not go out and put anything out during a game now, because it's just lunacy. Yeah. I mean, the whole game can change, and a red card, a moment of genius. So you're like,
you're slaughtering somebody saying he's rotten and he scores a winner.
Well, exactly. There's another thing, you've done it yourself.
Remember I did that at St Mirren.
Oh, that was fantastic.
He needs to come off.
No, this is great.
An ultimate nightmare. Bang.
John Sutton. I said, Ruffy, what's your overview of the game? He says, Sutton's come off, he's done nothing. Bang, back of the minute. I just looked and we couldn't stop laughing, Ruffy, could we?
Oh, no.
You've done it all, but it's one of those tweets. You've got to sit and stick by it, Ali. If you get it wrong, you've got to take it on the chin.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's get into the meat and bones of something that is causing another bit of consternation. And that's, of course, the deal, the SPFL and this extension with Sky, which is on the table. It'll bring in 150 million, an extended amount of money over the medium term, I think it's fair to say, on the existing deal. Now, there was crisis talks. Rangers and Livingston were holding out and voting in favour of this proposed deal. It's £30 million per year, and it lasts till 2029, and it increases the live matches from 48 to 60. So Rangers Managing Director Stuart Robertson accused the SPFL of underselling Scottish football. Dave Cormack's come out today with all guns firing, saying the SPFL deal is of higher value per game against comparable countries like Holland, Belgium, Sweden and Denmark. He says most SPFL clubs don't have the appetite to provide 19 live home league games a season because it would eat into the season ticket sales, the gate income, the hospitality, retail, and he reckons it would have an impact on the atmosphere at home matches. This is what we were talking about earlier, Ali, with regards to this deal. It really is, it's opened up a hornet's nest. The deal looks as if it's done and dusted, and they'll be announcing that deal shortly. So the problem is, you and I know, Ali, going into press conferences anywhere and press releases, sometimes you have to treat managers, players, chairman, chief executives, managing directors, whatever they say, they speak with forked tongue sometimes, and you have to look at it and analyse the agenda that they've got, and then treat it with a little bit of disdain and try and look at the facts on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone is motivated by self-interest. Everyone comes from their own corner and their own perspective on it. I think when you look at the comments from both, there are holes to be picked in both of them. Neither is a foolproof argument. I think what it comes down to is that this is a deal that's on the table. It is the only deal that was presented and on the table. Scottish football isn't in a position where it can turn its back on any kind of revenue coming in. Clubs are heavily reliant on it. If it wasn't there, it would be a massive problem. On the other hand, I do appreciate that I think commercially you could be doing more. I don't know that I fully buy into the idea that if clubs offer a streaming service that it affects attendances. I'm not sure we've ever seen it. It's impossible to tell, because when it was done through COVID, when you had empty stadia and people weren't allowed in. So I think it's very difficult to gauge what impact it would have. I think for a lot of people, going to games, their season ticket, it's a ritual, it's habitual, it's social. There are all different elements involved in it, more than just going. But you have to think too, there are people and there are supporters of all of these clubs all over the world who would buy into it if it was there. There are people who can't buy season tickets for various different reasons, can't get along. I think there should be sensible discourse on what can we do to maximise that. Can you offer every game on a pay-per-pay basis? Can we do it as a trial for a season and see what's the impact on attendances and season ticket sales? So I appreciate the arguments for both, but right now, when there's a deal on the table, I think you had to take it.
Yeah, the other aspect of this, I think, is the SPFL is operating on a basis of a memory bank, which is they've had their fingers burnt before by shunning Sky and basically taking a deal that was flawed. And the initial Setanta ended up crumbling, and they had to go cap in hand back to Sky to save their skin, Ruffy. So the other aspect of it, I think Stuart Robertson makes some good points on the basis that going out to tender, you know, the Scottish football is the sensible thing to do if there are a number of interested parties, but there is not. And I'll tell you why there's not, Ruffy, because there's an agenda of a group of squabbling men. The whole thing is portrayed like people going into a pub and punching each other, and everybody's backstabbing each other. And the cinch deal, if you're at the marketplace right now, you must be looking and thinking, why would I bother actually sponsoring this toxic brand, which is the SPFL? Because everybody's got their own self-interest. There are some with a long-term agenda, and there are some who just basically, have got their own self-interest. And I think we are being looked upon as just a squabbling bunch of people who can't organise themselves and market the game properly because of the evidence that we've witnessed over the last, I could say 10 years, possibly more than that.
Yeah, I think you're perfectly right, and so is Ali. They have a right. The streaming. I'm only going from our point of view at Partick Thistle. Streaming is a big income. Now Rangers streaming must be tenfold. So I can see why Rangers would be saying, you know, well, let's look at something else. Let's see if we can get that deal. But that deal's not there. You know, we haven't been offered that deal. Sky have told you this is it. And I would like to think that the people in the negotiations with Sky have explored every avenue. And at the end of the day, they've said this is the deal. Now, the deal is that 10 people agree with it and 2 didn't. Surely you've got to go with the majority.
Well, this is what I think is going to be confirmed shortly. And the other aspect of it as well is some people might look and say, well, BT were in the mix. BT weren't in the mix, Tam, because their deal wasn't substantial in any way or to show any great interest in Scottish football. And Scottish football is not the only one that suffers from BT. BT's strategy has changed on where they're putting their money.
Yeah, they're pumping into down south, and the thing with BT is, you know, if they really wanted the Scottish football, they could have, you know, they could have put a reasonable bid in it against Sky. They weren't interested, you know, and you know, just to repeat what Ali and Ruffy's saying, if there's only one deal on the table, you know, there's nobody else. You can't play someone off against another person, you know. So there's no alternative, and I think that the clubs, you're right, that you've been burned in the past. That money is massive for all the clubs, particularly the clubs out with Celtic Rangers. So I think we're just going to have to bite the bullet and take it. And I think it will get announced pretty soon that they've came to an agreement, the 10 against the 2.
Yeah, and the other aspect of it that I think is difficult to take is you have, you know, sets of chairmen who are coming out, managing directors, chief executives, you name it, from every club, putting out, you know, whether it's a graph or their belief in what the truth, the light and the way is with the deal, and their set of fans are saying, well, it must be this, and then out comes another one, and then they're all at loggerheads with each other again. I would like to see, Ali, not that it ever happens to any great effect in Scottish football, I'd like to see transparency where the SPFL come out and say, look, here it is, this is why we suggested it, this is the deal. Putting it out to tender to other people has a problem with it. This is why we didn't do it, this is why we think this is good short term before we look to the long term views.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would benefit everyone. I think it benefits the understanding of the situation and why you come to the agreement that you do. I think, as we've spoken of, everyone comes to something like this, everyone comes to the table from their own perspective. They come with their own agenda, as we all do in life. You come from a position of self-interest. But I think it would help to know the details behind it. I think the criticism is that when you break it down into a game-by-game basis, that it's arguably less than what you were on. And I think there's been a criticism of Sky not being overly invested in Scottish football, as if it's an afterthought compared to the glamour of other leagues, particularly down south, and BT won these plaudits for being more in keeping with the tone of Scottish football and almost getting it. But that means nothing when it's not come up, when it's not backed with a financial deal. Essentially, you have to put your money on the table then and say, well, this is where we really back it. And until you have that, you have one option.
And this is on the basis, Alison, that people don't think that the SPFL has gone behind the scenes and tested the market. You know, an official tender is one thing, but quite simply, they will have sat down with people and somebody has said to them, by the way, there's nobody out there for you because you're seen as a bunch of squabbling idiots.
You think of streaming services just now, like what Amazon done with some of the games at the Premier League. You're thinking, right, can you go and promote it to a big multi-million streaming organisation that benefits the game? I think if that avenue is there, I think you explore it. I think it's fair to say that there will have been work done behind the scenes.
And by the way, another thing, Ruffy, apart from anything else, and this is something that I think is well worthy of mentioning, as well as the overall conduct of boards, and I include a lot of them when we know what happened in COVID, but the conduct of the supporters over the last couple of months has not been good. And I think that and some stories actually move across borders and people look at it. And, you know, everybody's, and again I emphasise, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but the majority of people looked at some of the banners that have been held out there and they weren't viewed as being decent, and I think it's a bad reflection on our game. And now as well, you know, English clubs have started to come under a bit of scrutiny for fans invading the pitch, for missiles being thrown, but we've had a bit of it up here consistently over the last 3 or 4 months that I think needs to be nipped in the bud as well.
Yeah, I think people appreciate if you're going to a large company, you know, you don't have to be squeaky clean, but you have to be shown that they want to be part of what you're doing, you know, and if you get things like that going on in the background, I'm sure it must be harder for the people who are negotiating deals, you know, because that's the first thing you're going to get hit with. If we sponsor you, are we going to get branded with all this stuff that's going on? So that's when you start losing sponsors. So yeah, we do really need to clean our act up. And as long as the clubs keep telling the players, the supporters, to clean their act up, then we've got a chance.
Yeah, and as if to emphasise what we were saying on this one, that we thought it would be done, the deal is done. Because Murdo McLennan has just come out and confirmed that it will be announced, and everybody now knows that to 2029 that deal, Tam, will pay £150 million to the SPFL.
As I said, it's something that I think the clubs had to take. I think the longer it goes, the threat of Sky pulling the plug would be catastrophic, I think, for some of the clubs. So I think they've got together. There's going to be clubs in there that are not happy with it. We know the clubs that are not happy with it. We know the clubs that are. But as Ruffy says earlier, you've got to go with the majority, and we went with the majority, and we're with Sky until 2029. So I think a lot of people will be happy with it, and a lot of people won't. But
I think what you do now is the deal is done. In the short term, you have finances coming in. The deal is signed. I think the sensible thing to do now is to have proper discourse with all the clubs. What would you like? What's your wish list here? What would you like? What can we do? And as you go forward, you try and tick as many of those boxes as possible. This is when you start to think, how can we sell it to a wider audience? Can we trial something like pay-per-view in the future? I think you have to have mature conversations about what's plausible and what would appease and what would satisfy the needs of every club.
Ali, I think that's already happened. I think they're still at war with each other. They don't care about that whole aspect of it. I think that's already happened. That's already happened. That wish list, that discussion has taken place. And basically the SPFL come back and said, this is the deal. This is the deal we have to take now to secure some kind of stability short term. And some clubs have gone, no, we don't like that. I think that's already happened.
Sky were holding all the aces, weren't they? They could play poker.
If there's only one,
they could threaten to pull out and you go, no. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's just come out, all confirmed. Just a couple of things I want to say, and I think it's, before I give you the answer to the quiz, Ruffy, I'd like to say good luck to Lee Wallace, who announced his retirement after 18 years in the career. And for me, as a Rangers captain, God, I felt sorry for that boy at times, because he just basically had to sit in front of that press room and defuse bombs and try and keep that straight line when all around him was, was imploding and exploding as well.
Yeah, he fell into the same category as Ali McCoist. You know, that's all people wanted to know, and they were the two, the front, him as the captain, Ali as the manager. So yeah, I think he's been a great servant, not only for Rangers but for Scotland as well when he got a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you'll know some of the press conferences. He just tried continually to basically tread down the middle line on it as the chaos was unfolding behind him.
Yeah, I always have a lot of sympathy, and I think you always have a lot of respect for players when they come in and speak to you when things aren't going well. I think it's very easy to turn up on the back of winning cups, and the back of being successful and winning games. I think there's an element of respect when it's the opposite and you're coming in and you know it's an uncomfortable interview that you're sitting through. I think it can be very easy to duck out of it, so I think you admire people that come in and have the front to show up.
Yeah, good luck to him.
You've also got to remember that he was one of the ones that were loyal and stayed with the club when he went down into the third division and come back through the leagues with them. So
yeah,
I think he would fondly remember the Rangers supporters for being part of that.
I thought that might have been to the detriment of his international
Probably
career.
Was. I think it was detriment to his career. You look at some of the players that went down there. David Templeton's another one that springs to mind. The real quality players that obviously went down there for financial reasons. But I think that Wallace, he went down there. I think he could have played anywhere. I think he was a good player, left back. But he went down there and stuck with Rangers through the tough times as well. Yeah, absolutely. Good luck to him and whatever he decides to do. I'm sure he's got more to contribute to our game or further afield. Just 1 point before we give you the quiz answer. Jason Cummings scored. You should actually see the interview. I've seen it. Honestly. He scored the penalty, so fair play to the boy. He's enjoying himself down there. As I said, it's probably the best thing for him was getting out of Scotland or out of Britain, and getting out the road and just concentrating on his football. hopefully he looks as if he's. I was going to say looks as if he's grown up, but his interview
suggests otherwise.
Suggests otherwise.
He
But
still has that smile on his thing when he's
still gets.
You can't get rid of that, Ruffy.
Tattoo.
That's a tattoo.
Oh, but is he still?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Listen, if he goes to the World Cup, fair play to him. If he gets in that Australia squad, but I think they made a lot of changes.
Yeah.
But he's done himself no harm anyway.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks to everybody for all their points of view. And for lots of people who have posted their messages, again, we try and deal with as many of them as possible. Michael Ross, for your point, we dealt with it in detail on Friday's programme and on Thursday's programme as well. If you hit the subscribe button, Michael, you'll get the opinion every day on the programme on the relevant issues that we discuss. And that's the great thing about this programme. It's free to watch. You can watch us at your leisure on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, and of course if you download the app you can see it live on the programme as well on the app. So if it's on your phone or your tablet or your PC, you can catch it, and it's 24/7. We've got breaking news all the time on the app, as well as the chance for you to get other unique content on the YouTube channel. The answer to the quiz question: so how many managers have Watford had since 2012? And the answer is 18, Alison.
No. 18?
Some of them had 2 stints.
I wasn't far away.
You were
16.
close.
I
Yeah.
just appointed a guy today, so I was 7, 1/2.
Yep, absolutely.
9 and 10 was nowhere near it.
Well, by the way,
Oh no!
do you remember that look?
These three managers.
Do you remember that look Alison gave us when she won the predictor? She was winning every. She was looking at you with that condescending manner. That was Alison half an hour ago. You know, give her that look.
Ali.
So, 18, outrageous, and well done to everyone who actually got the correct answer. 18 managers at Watford. God almighty, that's absolutely mental. Closely followed by Hibs, the way things are going down. Nevertheless, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all your opinion on the programme. Hit the subscribe button if you can and join the football family. Thanks to Ruffy, Alison and to Tam McManus. Join us tomorrow. Ruffy and myself will be joined by Motherwell and Scotland defender Stephen O'Donnell is our special guest. So we're looking forward to Stephen's take ahead of the big game against Ukraine. Thanks for watching.